Okay, Karpov against Fortish, Tilburg, 1988. White clearly has a space advantage and prospect of an attack against the enemy pawns. His best piece stands on c6, which can be neutralized by black's knight, but just not right now. Bishop e2 is a fine move, but black would never play a5. I don't know why he's jumping to that conclusion, losing what is left of his plan. So rook a8 is actually the only move. That's what he says. Now, this position had already been on the board. In fact, now after g4, white appears to have achieved a favorable version of the game, which also gave him an advantage. However, concrete calculation reveals that the black rook is better placed on a8 than on e8 if the world collapses. Apparently after hg, bishop takes g4, black has the move knight c5. And after queen takes b6, rook takes b6. If the rook was on e8 here, this pawn on a6 would be undefended. But my point to you guys is that we don't have to rush with the move g4. I like h4 in this position, so we're going to check this with an engine. Augurd's move, his stated solution is g4 exclamation mark. He does give g4 as the solution. h4, he says, is dubious, merely creates a weakness on the dark squares. A possible variation is king g7 exclam, preparing for g3, g4, and he gives g4 a question mark, takes, and now he says rook h8 gives black counterplay, which does make some sense. Okay, so after h4, he says that queen f... this is a key move. Queen f4 is a very strong move. What does queen f4 prepare? So we got parts of it right, but he does claim that the immediate g4 is best. Oh, it prepares g5. And now this pawn on h4 is weak. So we had to look at this position a little bit deeper. And one of the mistakes that I made here's one of the mistakes that I made. I got fixated on this pawn. I assumed that the queen has to remain on b4 to tie down the knight. But you have to be very flexible. A piece could be doing one job in one position, and it might need to do another job in another position. And this idea of being very fluid in response to where your pieces belong is very important. And here, as long as you realize that the queen doesn't have to remain on b4, it's easier to find this idea. But nonetheless, he does say bishop e2 is a decent move. He doesn't, however, like h4. Let's confirm this with Stockfish, and let's see how the engine chooses to play this position. You guys can see how I'm using the engine. I'm not anti-engine. I do, appreciate what the engine says, because ultimately it's important. Okay, engine says bishop e2 best move. Yeah, bishop e2 best move. And after rook a8, but yeah, g4 here. g4, and if h4, then queen f4 is just winning. You cannot stop the move g5. Because if black plays g5 himself, then white has queen f5. And after bishop d3, this battery is going to be horrible. So bishop e2 is good, tying down the a6 pawn. But here h4 is inaccurate, indeed, because of king g7. And the medicine here is worse than the... Oh, actually, no, it does like h4. So let's count this as a win, although it is very instructive that we shouldn't get fixated on the way that a particular piece is placed. All right, does that make sense? Let's do one more. And let's go back to the problems and set it up. Crumbly Cheesecake, thank you for the tier 1. Let's do exercise number 7. Let's do number 8. Now that seems a little bit juicier. And this one's going to be black to move, so just for some variety. So material 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So all 8 pawns for both sides on the board. It's a very close position. And in a closed positions are what I think a lot of people, thank you guys, this is very sweet. Closed positions, I think, are what a lot of people need to work on, because a lot of people hate closed positions. They can be very hard to deconstruct. And I would really encourage you to pay attention to two main things in closed positions. The first is squares. Squares are incredibly important because the way that you infiltrate in a closed position is through weak squares. You can't infiltrate through the center, so you kind of have to use weak squares. You're kind of climbing a wall, grabbing onto the rocks, if that makes sense, or you're grabbing onto debris. And if we look at the weak squares in black's position, it's quite concerning. Thank you, Pistol Cat, gifting to Sykesok. Because you can see that these two squares, white can go bishop g4, and if he ever manages to stick a knight on f5, that just doesn't seem particularly appealing. The other thing that you need to pay attention to, in my opinion, is ways that we can open up the position. You need to be aware of the various pawn breakthroughs that at some point can open up the position, and you need to be more prepared than your opponent when that moment comes to push the pawn. Thank you, Yumi Simile, for the prime. We got a hype train rolling. Appreciate it, guys. So, the move h5 does make sense from the perspective of stopping the trade of light squared bishops, but I think just bishop takes h5. I don't see what you get in return for the pawn. You do open up the h file, but I just don't think it's worth it. So h5 does blunder the pawn. What else? So what are the pawn breakthroughs? Well, for white, f4 seems to be the potential pawn breakthrough, but that's never really happening, right? Because look at how many... Sorry, let me remove some of these arrows. Look at how many defenders black has on the f4 square. Black has 3 pieces on that square. I just don't see it happening anytime soon. Thank you, the Recluse, for the prime. So it appears to be the kind of situation where black, on the other hand, does have the capacity to prepare f5, and he can prepare it by dropping the queen back. This does prepare the move f5. The issue here is that white will play bishop g4, I think. White is going to play bishop g4 and prevent black from playing f5, I think. So I'm not sure I like queen g7. And as I explained, guys, h5, I think, just blunders the pawn, although I don't really... and I don't really see what black gets in return. So this tells me that maybe there is some hidden way to improve our position in a sort of specific way. I mean, we can play bishop d7, but I feel like there's something that is a little bit more meaty, if that makes sense. A little bit more meat to the move. Let me think. I'm actually going to pause for a second, guys, and think. Okay, so we can go there. Sacrifice. I do want to stop bishop g4. Can we find some sort of prophylaxis against bishop g4? We got a raid incoming, it appears. Well, well, we can castle, but I'm not sure what that gives you, right? I'm not sure what castling really gives. But here's another idea. Oh, Andrew Tang is about to raid us. That's fantastic. Yeah, so this is a very, very tricky one, guys. Well, first of all, we cannot... Whoa! Holy smokes! Bishop a6 blunders the bishop, guys. Always check for tactics because of this fork. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Andrew, for the raid. Guys, you come at a good time. We're doing actually some training. I am solving some positional exercises, very difficult Grandmaster level positional exercises from the book Excelling at Positional Chess by Jacob Auger. That's something relatively new. I've never done this before, and we are really suffering through some tough positional exercises, but I think we're all learning along the way, including me. And we are currently on this problem. It is black to play, and we're definitely struggling. Well, guys, so queen g7, white will play bishop g4, I think. This is Andrew's kind of position. I think he can definitely help us out here. The problem is I think white has this positional threat of bishop g4. So here's another thought. Here's another thought. This is easy, says Brandon. I thought you were a GM. So let me think here. H5 is also something that was suggested, but I just don't think, we can allow bishop takes h5. I'm just not seeing it there. Yeah, so knight f8 is a very interesting idea. I was thinking about that one as well. Knight f8 is very interesting from the perspective of preparing f5. Chess Kid 111, I really like that proposal. Yes, I think this is a very nice idea, actually, because here's the thing. Not only does this prepare f5, and I got a very sweet message I just want to read out. F5 ER1, thanks for these streams. They have meant a lot to me over the past couple of years and helped me with my depression, but my mom passed away a couple of days ago. Whoa. First of all, I'm sorry to hear that, but I got a lot more chess to teach. So, at least you can get to 2,000. At least help you with some positional exercises. This community is always going to be here for you. I truly do feel your pain. As I suffered a similar loss in the past year, and please do stick around. We would appreciate it. This community is always going to be here for you. Yeah, that is. I'm truly sorry to hear that, but there are plenty of people in this community who will hold you up, and I got a lot more to teach. So there's a lot more speedrun to come. At the very least, you can't miss the rapid speedrun. So absolutely, thanks guys. So I wish you the very best. Stay strong, and there's nothing I could say to ease the pain, but chess, I think, can offer the best kind of escape, as it has for me for many, many years. Okay. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you guys. Really appreciate the love, and once again, I'm sorry to hear that, but just like chess positions can be lost and you can swindle them, you can absolutely get out of, I believe, many, many tough situations. So that's what I'll say for now. I'll let you have your piece, but thank you, Grant Owen, Coach Grant, for five gifted. I appreciate it, Coach Grant. Yeah, this is an awesome community, truly, and you can see how much love is being sent. So let's work on this puzzle. And if you have any thoughts on this puzzle, I need some help. So okay, so I do like the idea of going knight f8 and queen g6 here. And the bottom line here is we want to prepare f5. Now, if you play queen g7, the problem here is that it is much more difficult to get f5 in. It's much more difficult to get f5 in than it is in this situation, because the queen is actually contributing to the support of f5. And actually f5 is now a threat. f5 is actually a threat. And so, for example, if white takes on c8, then after rook takes c8, we are attacking e4 and we are preparing f5. So credit here to Mr. Chess Kid. I wonder who your coach is. Clearly finding pretty good positional ideas. So we like that f8. And potentially this knight, if you think about where this knight could go, it could later swing around to f6. It could later swing around to f6. And it could apply pressure on the e4 pawn. So I'm going to go with knight f8, guys. That's a nice idea.